Where the Department of Health said there were already dozens of COVID cases in schools across the First Coast. Well, today the agency says that report was published in error and that it was a, quote, draft. That's according to our news partners at the Times-Union. We can confirm that there have been at least 4 confirmed cases in Duval County Public Schools. A staff member tested positive at Highlands Middle and at Young Leadership Academy. And over at Landon College Prep and Dinsmore Elementary, administrators confirm a positive case in a student at each school. So right now, Duval is working with the local health department to communicate with families and students who need to quarantine. The school district is creating a dashboard to show positive cases in schools.
We have been telling you facts, not fear, since this pandemic started, and we know that people have all different opinions when it comes to different parts of this crisis. But what about facts that are backed up by science that some just don't agree with? On your sides, Kaylee Tracy spoke with 2 psychologists on why facts may not be enough to change someone's mind.
This is a planned demic.
We've seen fights over face masks across the country, this one in Palm Beach County.
You disgrace me! You know why? You did not listen to we the people.
And other issues related to COVID-19.
Just as we talked about before with the confirmation bias, people were seeking out a political message that confirmed what they were feeling about those early days with wearing a mask. And that's pervaded through till today in deep August.
Dr. David Chesser, a psychologist at the University of Florida Health, says COVID-19 is not separate from several issues in the world where everyone brings their own views, and those thoughts are difficult to change, even when there are facts to back it up.
It's a more complicated question than it actually sounds like.
He says, think of it like being asked to switch your football team mid-season.
We've gotten into the muddying of the waters with COVID. Just like we're not going to change if we're a Gators fan or a Bulldogs fan, we're probably not going to change how we feel about COVID from the Republican point of view to the Democrat point of view.
Point of view. It's what Dr. Merrick Hirsch, an inpatient psychiatrist at Memorial Hospital, says is one reason why facts may not change someone's mind.
Everyone has their own background, their own sets of beliefs and values and perspective on issues and the world. And those are elements of a person's character that are fixed.
He says if someone is set in that viewpoint, it's going to be hard to change his or her opinion, no matter the reasoning. Kaylee Tracy, First Coast News, on your side.